Hi everyone, it's Coach Fred here, and today it's one of my favorite days because in Algebra 2 we're getting ready to factor, and you learned it in Algebra 1 and you practiced it in geometry, but there always seems to be question about factoring a trinomial when the a term is bigger than 1. So again, a quadratic expression in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is a quadratic expression or a trinomial. And we can factor these types of expressions. Oops. So let me fix that. All right, so there's several different methods, and because you're coming from different schools, different teachers, there's just a multitude of ways to teach this. So I'm going to show you several methods. I might not even I might not even get to the one your teacher taught you, but I'm hoping that these are the most used. So we'll go through them. Okay, so the first one I like to call guess and check. And this is the one I like to teach only because I really feel like it builds number sense. All right, so when we're guessing and checking, we know that our result is going to be two binomials, but we go through our factoring checklist. So our factoring checklist is always look for a greatest common factor within the trinomial. In this case, there isn't one. And then I also check to see if it's a perfect square trinomial, but 5 is not a perfect square, so that's out as well. All right, so what do? Well, I look at my factors of 5, which are 5 and 1. And then I also look at my factors of 6, which are 3 and 2, and 6 and 1. Now, because I don't have a lot of factors for the first term, I only have one set. Those have to be my factors. At that point, lots of teachers teach this differently, but I actually like to use what I like to call the connectors. I connect the inner terms and the outer terms. Make it like a little smiley face, 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. And because when I put the other numbers in, we know that we need their products to add to negative 17. All right, so here's what I mean. I pick one set of these factors. I usually pick the one that I'm most commonly used to seeing, which I'm going to say is 3 and 2. So I'm going to put a 2 here and a 3 here. And then I'm going to multiply the inner and the outer terms. So 2 times x is 2x. 3 times 5 is 15x. I got lucky here because if I add these together and they're both negative, then I would get a negative 17x, which is my middle term. So I have factored it. All right. Now, there's another way to do this. It's either using what teachers might refer to as the grouping method, also called the AC method. And I'll show you why that's the AC method, ax squared plus bx plus c. The AC method, what you do is you take 5 times 6, and that gives you 30. You multiply them. And then you try to break up 17 into factors of 30. So I know that 15 and 2 multiply to 30 and add to 17, so I can rewrite this trinomial as 5x squared minus 15x minus 2x plus 6. So I broke 17 up using the factors of the a and the c term. All right, now I factor by grouping. Grouping is when we group together two terms of the now 4-term polynomial. So in the first set of terms, I would take out a 5x, and I would be left with x minus 3. In the second set of terms, I take out a negative 2, and I would also then be left with x minus 3. To make sure I've grouped it right, these binomials have to be exactly the same, and they are. So that becomes my GCF, so I pull it out to the front, and then I would be left with 5x minus 2. Some kids really like this, but this isn't an algorithm. This is a process you need to remember. Whereas guess and check, you know that you know how to factor because when the a term is 1, you usually use the same method. Either way, I'm totally comfortable with whatever you choose. All right, here's a harder one. And here's one in which the AC method to me seems a little bit more difficult. But I'm going to use both methods. So my factors of 21 are 7 and 3 and 21 and 1. My factors of 12 are let's see, how about 12 and 1, 6 and 2, and 4 and 3. All right, so I'm going to look at trinomial factoring. So in this case, I'm going to go with 7 and 3 to start. So 7x and 3x. All right, and then I'm going to put in my connectors, my outer and my inner term, because I know they need to add to 4. All right, so I have to look at my terms here. I've got 12 and 1, 4 and 3, and 6 and 2. And at first glance, I see that 6 and 2 might actually be a good option because I'm trying to get 4. So I grab that 6 and 2, and if I put the 6 here and the 2 here, I'm going to get an inner term of 18x, an outer term of 14x, and if I make the 14 negative, when I add them, I would get 4x, or c in this case. Sorry about that, I switched. All right, so I want the negative 14, which came from the outer term, and a positive 6, which came from the inner term. I got lucky there. You start to see factors after a while. All right, so here's the AC method. The AC method would mean that you multiply the A times the C, okay? And where's my calculator? There it is. Okay, so 21 times 12 is 252. Yuck! 252. I'm trying to find the factors that multiply to 252 that add to 4. So at this point, I'd probably grab my calculator. I'd go to the y equals button, and I would move up here and clear, and I would do 252 divided by x, and then go to my table. So second graph, which would give me the table. And now I'm going to look for the factors that are 4 away from each other. And you can see that it's 14 and 18. Interestingly enough, it's the factors we got when we multiplied here, right? All right, so I'm going to rewrite this as 21c squared. And I need it to be to give me a 4, so that would be plus 18c minus 14c minus 12. All right, now I'm going to factor by grouping. So I'm going to group together 2 sets of terms. In the first set, it looks like I can take out a 3c. I'd be left with 7c plus 6. And in the second set, I'm going to take out a negative 2. And I would be left with 7c plus 6. So 7c plus 6 is my new greatest common factor. So I pull it out to the front, and I'm left with 3c minus 2. Okay. All right, so there's 2 really good examples of factoring when the A term is greater than 1. Pick which one you feel the most comfortable with. I prefer guess and check, but the AC method or the grouping method is also a perfectly acceptable way to factor. All right, guys, have a great night.